This is lesson 12, lines, number lines, and tally marks. A lot of it you know. There's some new stuff too, so let's go fast, but pause it if you need to slow down. Email me if you get stuck. Okay, so bunch of vocab words. Geometry is the study of shapes. A line never ends. It's very straight and it doesn't have any kinks or curves or bends, but it doesn't end. It goes on forever on both sides. A line segment has two endpoints. So it's just a piece of a line with definite endpoints. An array has one endpoint and then it goes on forever, but only that way. So it has that way. Horizontal means across, like the horizon. Vertical means up and down. So there's a horizontal line. There's a vertical line. That one might be new, an oblique line. It's neither horizontal nor vertical. Again, if you already knew it, great. You already know it. Okay, so we're going to look at number lines. You've seen them forever, but let's talk just a little bit more in detail. It shows numbers at a certain distance from 0. So from 0 to 1 is called a unit segment. All the segments on a number line should be the same size. I turn my paper sideways and look, I already have little same size segments drawn out for me on my notebook paper. So that's kind of handy. So from 0 to 1, so the distance of one line on a lined notebook paper is a unit segment. We designate each segment with a little tick mark. So tick mark, tick mark, tick mark, tick mark, okay? And it goes from smaller to bigger. So these are the smaller numbers, these are the bigger numbers, okay? So if it's more on the right, it's bigger. If it's more on the left, it's smaller. 5 is bigger than 3. 3 is bigger than -1, but -1 is bigger than -5. That's a whole new ball game. We'll get into that a little bit later. So integers are positive numbers, negative numbers, and 0. So you call all those numbers all together. So they're all the counting numbers plus the opposites of the counting numbers and 0. Those are all integers. I think we talked about how they're equally spaced. It would be a silly number line if it looked like this. 0, 1, 2, 3. That would not be a good number line, would it? So make sure you turn your paper sideways if you need to help in getting them equal. Focus when you're counting. This is a real problem I saw a lot in 6th grade. Focus on the segments rather than the numbers when you're counting on a number line. So if I'm counting like how far it is from 0 to 3, I don't count the numbers. If I said 0, 1, 2, 3, then I'd have 4 numbers, but it's only 3 spaces, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 segments from 3 to 0. And when I subtract 3 minus 0, I get 3, right? I don't get 4. So that might tangle you up. That's probably the only thing that'll really tangle you up. I don't know. Focus on these spaces in between the tick marks, those segments when counting. Okay, now tally marks. They're grouped into 5s. So I used to have to count by hand years and years ago when I did student government. And I would have the whole school and I would have to tally how many votes each kid got. And if I had to tally 300 votes, it would have been really hard unless I had used tally marks. If I counted this, it would take me forever if I had 300 of those to count them unless I had some way to group it. So we grouped them. We put 4 vertical lines and then an oblique line, and that's that 5th one. We group them into groups of 5. And this is so much easier to count because then I can count each of these by 5. 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. Here I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, did I count that one? I got to start again. So it gets a lot more complicated. So tally marks, 4, and then the 5th one is the oblique one. Okay, and just grouping them by 5s. Nice way to count by hand a lot of big numbers. So that's basically it. Let's see. Let's look at example 3. I think we've basically done all these, right? No, let's go ahead and do them. Can you see that? Okay. This sequence counts down by ones. So write the next 6 numbers in the sequence and say the numbers aloud. Well, we can't do it as a class because we're not all together, but 5, 4, 3, and they want the next 6 numbers. So I've got 5, 4, 3. I'm going to count down 2, 1, 0. That's another 3. -1, -2, -3. So I've got my next 6 numbers in the sequence. Are they ordered from greatest to least or least to greatest? And we said these are the bigger and these are the smaller, so it's ordered from greatest to least, right? Okay. Number 2 just asks you to draw a number line, so I've told you turn your paper sideways, and that's really helpful. Make a 0 and then count upwards and then count backwards, and that helps me. And example 3 says, how many unit segments are there from 2 to 5 on the number line? Okay, so I'm going to start at 2 and I'm going to go to 5. So I'm not going to count the numbers. I'm going to count the segments. 1, 2, 3. Just like 5 minus 2 is 3. So there's 3 segments between 2 and 5. There are 4 numbers, but only 3 segments. Okay. Let's see. It says on the number line below, use arrows A and B indicate integers. Can you see that? Sorry. So they put a little dot here and they put a little dot here. Okay. Write the 2 integers using a comparison symbol to show which integer is greater. So that's a -3 and that's a 2. So if I want to compare those, I know that because that's more on the left, that's smaller, and that's more on the right, so it's bigger. My little pointy side points to the smaller number, so that's how I would write my comparison of those 2 numbers. If I wanted to say 2 is greater than -3, I could do it that way, either way. Okay. You guys good? Let me know if you have problems.